online. I'm Jerry Cruz. Tonight, I'll be performing the duties of the providing officer as presiding co-chair of the commission tonight. There is a quorum of commissioners present. So with that in mind, the March 2025 Massey Commission meeting is now called to order. First order of business is the minutes. You've all had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from the February meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Is there a motion to approve? So moved by Commissioner Phillips. And is there a second? Second by Commissioner Sunshine Clemens. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And now I'll ask the commissioners serving as work group leaders to present a short verbal report about your last gathering. First, Sunshine Clemens, law enforcement, hiring, training, wellness, and cultural competency. Oh yeah, the microphone is on the bottom. It's at the bottom. You slide it. No, I mean near the bottom. You slide it across. There it is. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
okay.
can. You can sing a little bit if you'd like. I mean, your voice sounded good.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Before I actually give my report, I do want to say one quick thing. Today is the National Day of Rest for Black women. And I want to recognize that. And I want to give a shout out to Joanne, Rakisha, Brianna, Vanessa, Catherine, and Shadia, who are a part of this group, and also Tashiana and Jerry Lynn, who are on the law enforcement work group, and all the other Black women who are on the other work groups who do this work. So thank you. From the bottom of my heart for showing up for the community in this way. I know that that does not indicate rest, but I appreciate what you all are doing, and I do see you. So, our work group met last week on March the 3rd at UIS. We had a presentation by Impact for Equity regarding officer decertification procedures, as well as some gaps in the system. We also discussed potential future subject matter experts for upcoming meetings based on our areas of focus that we presented last month. And we also discussed reaching out to the sheriff's office for her feedback on and recommendations on resolution number 3 that this commission passed in January, and we'll be inviting her to present to our group. We're in the process of reaching out to her now. We also worked on our 6-month report and discussed our progress so far, and confirmed some next steps. And I also want to note that I feel like this commission, as well as our work group, is just now kind of finding our footing. Our community attendance was higher at the last 2 meetings than it's ever been. It was actually higher this last week than it was the month before. So I feel like we're doing a little bit better job of getting the word out. People are showing up and giving input. So I just wanted to recognize that and thank the community for showing up and attending in that way. And our next meeting is April the 7th at CAP 1908, which is located at 1100 South Grand Avenue East. There is a potential for a meeting change just based on audio needs. So if you follow the Massey Commission page, it'll be updated. But as of right now, it's at 1100 South Grand at CAP 1908. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Brian Wojcicki, Integrated Mental Health Services and Emergency Response.
So our meeting a couple of weeks ago, we had the 911 director come and speak with our group. It was kind of building on the meeting we had the month prior with the Springfield Police Department, in particular focusing on the non-law enforcement response aspects to some state law and local changes that have been taking place over the last few years. That then is getting built on this Thursday. We're going to have a good panel for anyone who would like to come. It is going to focus on the state law implementation with regards to non-law enforcement behavioral health responses. So it's a mandate from 2021, I think it went into effect. It's taken a couple years to get rolling. The implementation is potentially this summer. So we have the state point person coming that the state is contracted with. The 911 director is coming back, and we're going to have a policy expert with the state association that provides or has a lot of members that provide behavioral health services. So good panel discussion on that this week coming up.
This Thursday, do you know where and when?
Yeah, so we actually are going to have it at the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities offices downtown, um, just south of 6th and Adams is the location. Obviously, all of this will get posted specifically on the address, first floor, Lincoln Room of the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities on Thursday at 5:30.
Thank you very much. Kristen Rubelke, Community Education, Public Health and Safety.
Okay, the Community Education on Public Health and Safety Work Group met on Saturday, February 22nd at the CAP 1908 building. We listened to two subject matter experts on the topic of Know Your Rights campaigns. Sunshine Clemens was one of the experts. She leads the Black Lives Matter movement in Springfield and is also the co-chair of the Law Enforcement Work Group. Veronica Espina was the other expert who leads the Immigrant Advocacy Network and also co-chairs the Economic Disparities Work Group. Thank you both for joining us. With their input, we had a really robust discussion on the needs of the community. Like Sunshine mentioned, I think the last couple meetings we're really getting our groove. We're shaping a movement forward and the work that we're doing. And so I'm really happy with where we're going. We're also going to be attending the mental health work group. Not all of our members, but we were invited to attend. So that's going to be really informative as we move forward with community education. So the next community education on public health and safety work group meeting will be held on Saturday, March 29th at 2 p.m. at the CAP 1908 building. And that's my update.
Thank you very much. Veronica Espina, Economic Disparities and Service Availability.
So several of us got sick and we had to cancel, and we didn't meet in February or yeah. So we've had incredible conversations, really good work. We're working on recommendations, but really three of us were, influenza and other things, so we had to cancel. Our next meeting is on Monday, April 7th.
Okay. April 7th. They've been good meetings for sure.
Yes.
Okay, I have a few remarks before we get into the agenda tonight. First, our renewal of call for investigations. In response to a plea for renewed calls for investigation from the community and leaders of the Sangamon County Board, the Massey Commission again issued letters requesting independent investigations of the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department. Those letters were sent to the Illinois Attorney General and to the Illinois State Police. To date, we have not received a response to that correspondence. If these agencies do not commit to review within a reasonable time frame, we've committed to work with the county on a request for proposal to secure an independent investigator. So that's where we are with that issue. Second, you see some new faces tonight. Brianna Roberts and Vanessa Nelson Knox. Since the commission started, 3 commissioners have resigned: Harvey Hall, Catherine Harris, and Shadia Massey. So tonight we would like to welcome Brianna Roberts and Vanessa Knox. Brianna, would you like to say a few words?
Okay. Hi. I'm really excited to be a part of the commission. I am a member of the Economic Disparity and Service Accessibility Work Group as well, so I work pretty closely with Veronica. Um, and I know how big of a task this is, but I just want to tell the community that I will do my hardest to be strategic and listen to the community and bring your concerns to the board. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to make you guys proud.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you for having me. Um, I'm a true believer in the community. I do believe in Springfield's community, and I do believe it can change the problems that we do have. We all keep working towards it. It's an attainable goal. Um, I wish us all the best, all the luck with it, and that we'll have even more people support us. Hopefully, the rooms will be packed each time for more people to learn how to help. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. Um, so now we'll turn to the agenda. Um, we'll first have a discussion of the commission structure and processes. There's one main focus for tonight on the agenda, and that is a review and discussion of the commission's structure, processes, key learnings, and consideration of rules for public engagement. So I'd like to do two things. First, well, I will pose some framing questions, but before that, in order to promote dialogue and discussion, to encourage the free flow of ideas among the commissioners, I do have a motion to make. So in order to achieve that goal, I move that we suspend Robert's Rules of Order for one agenda item, the agenda item listed as commission structure, processes, public comments, and learnings. Is there a second to that
I
motion?
second.
Is there a discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Um, I'll do better about saying who said the motions next time. So thanks for that. So with the suspension of Robert's Rules of Order, we can now have a free-flowing discussion among the commissioners. You do not need to be recognized to speak, but please speak only one person at a time and directly into a microphone that's turned on, that the on button is slid on near the bottom of the microphone. If anyone has difficulty getting to speak on the floor, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you and get you in. So we'll start again with the item of business titled in the agenda book, Commission Structure, Processes, Public Comments, and Learnings. So it's become apparent from recent community statements and events, not the least of which was our commission meeting in February, that the proper support for this commission may not exist or may not be as strong as it should be for optimal function. This lack of support's manifested in several ways, and I did communicate this to the commissioners before, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. First, the majority of people that attend Massey Commission meetings do not support the composition of the committee, and in general do not support the scope of our current work. Meeting after meeting, we hear criticism about the structure, process, and makeup. We listen to all these comments, and it's clear that there is some significant dissatisfaction that exists. Second, the co-chairs have had a good discussion with Massey family from across the country. There is still broad public perception that the Massey family doesn't have confidence in the commission and is considering options to withdraw support. Number three, the Sangamon County Board has not acted rapidly or positively on all of our recommendations. The Mental Health Board is moving forward, but our primary recommendation for the Sheriff's Office accountability was not accepted. Thanks to Senator Turner, we're pursuing a legislative pathway for that recall. Fourth, there's been a general malaise on the part of the broader business community in Sangamon County regarding the Massey Commission. From the business community, we've received few applications for commission membership. Many of those who committed to work have withdrawn, and tangible markers of support are non-existent. Problem. Five, SIU Medicine was selected by the county to provide administrative oversight for the commission. However, it was never the intent of SIU employees to provide ongoing day-to-day management of the commission. For the past 6 months, that is what Rakisha Falan and Megan Elgie have been doing as unpaid volunteers for the commission. The plan is for both of them to end their time with the commission at the end of this month. So thank you, Ms. Fallon and Ms. Elgie, for the great work that you've done. Countless hours of high-level service. I know it, as a matter of fact. We couldn't have done it without you to this point. So thank you. And thanks to the commissioners for your great work. We've taken some really important steps. We've done some excellent work. We have tried to listen to all voices and accommodate the needs of many groups. But at this point, it's now apparent that we may not have the proper structure or support to continue to be as efficient, as effective as we should be. So this commission is at a crossroads, and here are a few questions we need to discuss tonight. Number one, is a commission created by Sangamon County Board the right organizational structure to build trust with the community? Are there alternatives? How can we create the right forums and the correct flexibility for community engagement and dialogue? Are there alternatives? How do we appropriately honor and center the Massey family's leadership as we move forward? Yeah. You can.
Can those questions be put on the board so everybody can see them? Because I'm not finding them in my packet and I can't remember them all.
Do we have them, Rakisha, or no?
That would be helpful for me and maybe others. Thank you.
Hang on a second. Thank you, Susan.
As those are being put up, are you going to, are we going to be guided through like one question? You read all the questions and then you'll repeat, this is the question that we're discussing now. Is that how we're doing this?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the way.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
I just wanted everybody to get the
To hear-
broader
yep,
picture
that makes
of,
sense.
of
Okay,
what the
I just wanted to
questions
check because
were.
I didn't know if we were supposed to be addressing.
But you know, I am going to read the first question over now, and we'll
Okay.
open the floor for discussion on that.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean that comments about the second and third questions can't be brought into the first one, and I'll.
That's okay.
be
I
happy-
essentially I was just trying to get to the point of they're all going to be separate and be repeated. So
Right.
great. Thank you.
And the goal is that they hopefully all will lead to some broader discussion about what that structure and the processes should be. The issue about community engagement will probably be a separate discussion at the end, although it can be brought in with the first part of the discussion as well. So first, is a commission created by the Sangamon County Board the right organizational structure to build trust with the community going forward for the issues that we're working on? And are there any other alternatives? And it's now open to the commissioners for comment. Jump right in, Brianna.
I believe that a little while ago, when they were in the process of organizing this committee, I had asked them, I asked Gina Lathan what their intention and belief was behind giving this commission the big responsibility of being the ones in charge of the investigation, knowing that it wasn't organized yet. They had no resources. We had no idea who was going to be on the committee. And I've never really got an answer. And I frequent county board meetings and I speak at them. And I think it would be really beneficial if more commissioners attended the county board meetings and spoke at them, and even tried to build personal relationships with the county board members, which might be a little difficult. But I do think if we have to continue this relationship with the county board, because that's kind of where we are right now and our hands are kind of tied with that, we have to work with what we're given. And if they don't see our faces, if they don't attend these meetings, they're only getting bits and pieces of the information about what we're discussing here and what we want. And they might not even be able to put a face to the name. And I think that might be where a huge gap is. So I invite the rest of the commissioners to come to the county board meetings, to speak to the county board members. If you need help signing up, I could show you the sign up. It's super easy. But I do think since we can't like pull out of our connection with the county board, we have to use with what we're given. And right now we're given that relationship. So we have to use it to our advantage.
So essentially, I agree. I can't say that the setup was the best, but it's what we have, and it doesn't make sense to me now to try to pull out of that at the 6 month mark and say, "Oh, we need something different." I think we're, like I said before, we're just kind of finding our footing. Um, we are going to need the resources, like funding from the county. So if we pull out of that and decide to go another route, to me, that's just another opportunity for them to be like, well, we don't need to fund that. That's not under our purview anymore. And we're definitely going to need funds, and I'm not super concerned about like the businesses not being a part of this group, but since that was stated, we're not going to likely get funding from businesses in town to cover the financial needs of this organization for whether it be paying, subject matter experts or whatever, or the replacements for Rakisha and Megan. So to me, this is how it is. So we have to work with what we have. And I think if we try to restructure and do it a different way, we're going to set ourselves back even further. And we only have, I know this conversation is fluid, but at the way it was set up, we only were given 1 year. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do something that's going to take us 3 steps back and we're going to have to regroup. And that's just going to be eating into our year. I personally am of the mindset that this should not end in a year. I know I'm probably one of the few, maybe others feel differently, but I think it needs to go beyond a year. So doing something that's going to eat into the 1 year that we do have just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I understand the sentiment of like, you know, county board doesn't really listen to us. They're not moving things that, that we want. I get that, but I feel like it's going to undo the little bit of progress that we've made if we try to create a whole new system in the middle of this.
Just a quick comment on that. So all along, I think the idea has been that in this first year, we would be able to determine what the structure for the future was, and that the work would not cease, but might form into something else that's even more powerful and broad reaching. So I
Hopefully
don't.
that's the case, but I wasn't sure if that would require county board approval. And that was my concern, that if it does require their approval, will we get to go beyond a
Well,
year?
that's part of the reason why a broad-based community support and
Is
trying to build that is necessary, I think.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that always presented a conflict for the perception of our work as commissioners was this idea that we are not independent from the county board, which is the organization that supported financially, you know, whatever we needed to do, the hiring and so on. And I have always said in public spaces the same thing. One is that we as commissioners get to do something that is very hard to do in a segregated city, which is to build critical mass. Build critical mass is super important when it comes to anti-racism work, when it comes to addressing police brutality, and so on. And so that is really important. And as a commissioner, I feel that I don't fit in that position of I'm not independent from the county board. And what that tells me really is that the lack of transparency of the county board is what we inherit as commissioners as the negative umbrella that is over us. So I think that that's really important to recognize. I think that we are working independently from that umbrella in many ways because the work that we're doing is not just um, our work groups and what we're supposed to do as commissioners, but it's also building critical mass. So I think I am in support of what Brianna and Sanchan are doing and are saying. We should continue to work in the way that we're doing and continue to send the message that our work is still independently, and that is pretty bad that some of the recommendations we send to the county board are not implemented right away. They should be, and yet we still have work to do, and we should be doing it and continue to do it. And if at the end of the year then our structure becomes a non-for-profit, an NGO, a funded by grants sort of organization that will continue the work. So then that's the way to go. I mean, there's way to expand. And I think that our work is relevant, is important, and is crucial.
Sante?
Just okay. So I have spoken to my family. I'm just going to echo their sentiment. A lot of the issue that my family has had with the Massey Commission is they really don't know what's going on in it. Um, once I bridged that connection, and everyone in the co-chairs got to speak with the Massey Commission, I think a lot of things were cleared up. I think that the skepticism that my family had is gone. They actually want this to succeed. Uh, I I think that's the sentiment that I'm hearing all around town is that, well, they don't know what's going on in the commission. They've heard about the end of it before it even started. They knew it was only going to happen for a year, and that could quite possibly be the end of it. They also had an issue with it running up against the county board meetings. So it made it like a choice to be at a county board meeting or the Massey Commission meeting, and I think that's a big problem as well. So that's all I really have to say right now. I think the family, well, I know the family wants to move forward with the Massey Commission. They are on board. They are a part of this process as of right now. So
Bob?
I agree we should continue pretty much as we've been doing for this year. I would add that we might want to reach out to the Ferguson Commission. Their program has been going on for 10 years, and it may provide us with a roadmap about how they did it and how maybe we can do it.
They've got one big thing, funding from the state of Missouri.
Well, I hear you.
Yeah,
I, th-
All I'm saying is, how'd they do that?
yeah.
that's
yeah.
that
I also, sorry.
go ahead. So,
It's all right. One thing I want to point out as well is that same in county board, they said they'll give us what we need. That's what they said as far as funding. They said that they'll give us what we need. It's a couple of things that I want to point out as well is that I know Rakisha and Megan, you know, they need somebody in their position. That's what they need. You know, they're ready to get back to um, the positions that they already have, and I think that that's a discussion that we need to have actually in the month of March. Whether if we're scheduling an emergency meeting within the next 2 weeks, that's something that we need to go ahead and get set up. As far as the Massey Commission, um, there should be no pause on that whatsoever. We need to still at the end of the day, when I heard about the settlement, and I'll go ahead and get off into this, but when I heard about the settlement with the Massey family, I can understand that, but at the same time, settlements sometimes they come with changes to a department and so forth. So even with this settlement, it didn't come with changes. It didn't come with, okay, well, this is how the sheriff's department is going to operate in the future. So it's up to us. I mean, we got to establish changes. So no, Master Commission should continue. The work groups should continue. And we need to set up an emergency meeting within, I would say, the next 2 weeks. Let's get somebody to replace Rakisha, and let's get somebody to replace Megan. So, and that's my strong position in regards to that. So,
Thank you.
Um, I also want to echo, I do think we need, if we're going to be just collectively discussing this, we do need to meet soon with Rakisha and Megan planning to off board by the end of this month. I do think that's important. But I wanted to go back to something that Sante said, and I actually mentioned this to the co-chairs the other day. I think it's important that this commission is updating the family regularly. Whether that, like, I know you all had that one, virtual meeting. I think that needs to be something that happens regularly. And I know this whole entire commission can't do it because of, Robert's rules, and I know that's putting more on the co-chairs, but I do think that it should not be up to the family that's operating from a place of profound grief to have to come to us. If they don't ever want to attend another meeting, they should not have to. That should not be how they have to get that information. And I know Sante's on the commission and can verbalize that to them, but it also should not fall to him. I think the co-chairs, unless we can find another way to make it work, but I think the co-chairs need to be going to the family, updating the family. This is what we have accomplished. This is what we're working on. That way they know what's going on and they're able to receive the information versus having to either come to these meetings or ask Sante what's going on or whatever. I think we need to create an avenue for that. If my assumption is that they would be willing, since Sante is expressing that they, after that meeting, they are in better understanding of what we're doing and in agreement with us continuing. I would like to propose that we figure that portion out and be able to provide them that information.
Just to be clear, so they were actually supposed to be a part of this meeting virtually. There are some things that are happening this week in regards to what our family is doing. I also want to recognize that we have two older people in our audience, and I really appreciate that because we need more politicians, we need more policymakers at our meetings. So thank you for coming.
Susan?
I had the honor of facilitating our open discussion last month. And it was and it was a hard day for me to do it because right before the meeting I'd gotten a call about my dad who is on hospice care. And it's hard for all of us. Every one of us is weary. Many of us are working way more time, not just commissioners. Y'all tired? Every day. And so, yeah, last month I was facilitating and we heard a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Underneath that, I think a lot of hurt and a lot of fear. And what I want to acknowledge is the way in which those are all expressions of grief and trauma. And when we began this work, we talked about the way in which this community has been traumatized last summer by Sonia's murder, but forever by racism, for decades by climate change, maybe for all the time there's been colonial presence here, by economic disparities. I mean, the traumas are real, and we're hearing it. And it's valid that people are angry and that people are hurt. And it feels important to me that we recognize it and continue what our work is. That we don't hear people are mad and then say, oh, well, we should quit. People are mad and we need to collaborate. So one person who had lots of things to say last month, I have spoken to directly and said, would you please email me any concrete suggestions you have that you would like to see us do? I hear you're mad. What would you like us to do? Send it to me so that I can do something with it. This kind of space is not a good space and a good setup to address trauma
True.
or anger.
True.
And this body cannot be the only response. And it hasn't been. I mean, this community has done some remarkable work since the end of July, creating the healing circles, creating peace vigils, creating marches and rallies that were focused on justice, advocating for what we need to see changed, not just railing against what's wrong. There have been many significant things that happen, And we are only one piece of it. The fact that we can't fix it all and that we haven't fixed it all in 6 months is not a reason to stop. And when we ever are done with this body, the work will still continue. And that doesn't mean we've failed. It just means we have completed whatever task we've attempted. So I signed on for the year because that's what I was asked to do. But the focus of this commission's work is one of my life goals in whatever manifestation it takes.
Just to branch off of what Susan was saying, I have a recommendation. One of our first healing circles, there was, I believe it was Kelly Hurst, who kind of fulfilled the role as like somebody you could speak to if you needed, I don't want to say therapy, but like somebody to talk to if your emotions are becoming too much. And I know that meeting was a little insane, but the intention of having somebody there for any of the commissioners or anybody in the audience to talk to if they don't feel heard, if things are becoming overwhelming. I think that might be something we should look into implementing more often. I don't know how much it will get used, but just the fact that we would have that intention that, hey, we understand this is a traumatizing conversation. We have somebody for you to talk to if you need to, I think might just send a message to the community that we're not only trying to hear them, but we're also trying to support them underneath what they're actually saying to us.
I know that a lot of healing circles have been done for this and other things. And, I know a fair amount about the origin of some of that. Is that what you're suggesting, more healing circles, or just more of what
Can
happened
you
at the
also use a mic?
What?
Can you also use a mic?
He has one.
Oh, and my mic's on. I'm wearing it. Yeah. I, ju- since I was talking so much, I've got it right up here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay.
I do think having more healing sessions would be important as well, but even just for meetings like this, because we saw how heated they can get and how emotionally driven responses become. Um, so giving the community the opportunity to really just air their grievances or their support in more healing circles, I do think would be beneficial. And I think that would be a way for us to get more community engagement because, as we've seen, the audience has kind of dwindled, and it might be because of the lack of engagement. I know we allow public comment, but specifically having a meeting where it only focuses really on what are you feeling, what kind of steps do you want to take, and tell us how you're feeling, but also prioritizing trauma informed care during any possible meeting, since this is such a traumatizing topic, I think would be important.
Thank you.
And just so I know, because I'm taking notes, by providing people at these meetings that can provide like what Kelly provided. So having a meeting that's sort of a listening session with the addition of people being there that if someone needs to speak directly to someone, they may. Yes. Okay.
We do have trauma informed practitioners, and they're mostly related to SIU. So,
Mostly.
Dr. Saraf and so on. So that's very good idea. It's a funny, delicate idea to compare the structure in which we're functioning, which is the county board, and all the other things that are related to our humanity that come out when we talk about issues of racism and killing people because of it, right?
Yeah.
And living shorter lives because of it,
Yeah.
and so on. I mean, these are really, really, I particularly had a very, very hard time the day that Sunshine's mom talked to us. And that was really, really hard, and that would have been helpful. I also think that if I look back, one of the most positive things that come out of what I said before, building critical mass and changing people's hearts and mind, is the fact that what we're doing is a representation of democratic work. Like this builds democracy, period. I mean, I always say this, democracy is what happened in between elections. This is the work that we are supposed to be doing, representing people, representing the needs of our communities, and working in democratic ways. And that is really important. And for that, I'm very proud of what our commissioners are doing.
Other comments related to this? I'm getting some pretty clear messages here. No, that's good. Kristen? And then,
Okay. I just want to echo what everybody said. I think that uh, what we have right now is not perfect. We all knew that, and that became abundantly clear with the amount of distrust that the community has in the Sangamon County Board. The amount of, well, I mean, I don't think that it's fair to ask a community to start to build trust um, when they know that this could possibly go away in a year. Like that's not a fair ask. So I agree with what everybody has said, and I I think that we have to continue moving forward with our recommendations because yeah, an investment in the commission I think is an investment in the community.
And I know this is,
Calvin next. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Sunshine.
It's all good. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I know this has been restated in a couple of ways, but I just wanted to reiterate. Um, I don't think we need to stop with the community not supporting what we're doing. I think that's just an opportunity for us to find out ways that we can improve versus quitting. Like, to me, it's just like, oh, okay, you're mad at us. We haven't done a good job, so we're just gonna quit. That's not the message that I want to send the community. I want to send the message that, okay, we hear you. Let's figure out how to make this better, and even if we don't get longer than the year, like, let's do better on the latter 6 months, and show that we're really trying, and like we're all up here putting our hearts into this. Like, this is heavy, hard, challenging, frustrating, straining work, but we're here because three people who have been named and countless others who haven't necessarily been named in this way have been failed by systems that are in place in our community. So I'm going to say their names: Sonia Massey, Gregory Small Jr., and Earl Moore Jr. That is why we are here. So to me, it's like we can't just be like, oh, well, the community, got mad at us and they yelled at us, and so we're just gonna quit. Like, this is, we can't do. We can do this. We just have to figure out a way to do it better and do it right and do justice to the pain that they were speaking from.
Uh, One thing that I want to kind of echo as well is that I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I was attending via via YouTube. I had actually had a newborn daughter, and that's something.
How's that going? Good.
And that is something why I signed up to be on this commission, is because of the simple fact that when I saw the video of Sonia Massey being murdered, I thought about my own children, my own princesses, daughters. I thought about that. And even though I'm in the hospital with my own daughter watching this video, it just reiterated to me that, this is why I signed up for it. So as I'm watching the YouTube video, I see a lot of frustration, anger, a lot of people who are having doubts in the commission on why we are formed. And I just want to just reiterate my own position. Guess what? I'm not part of the Sangamon County Board. I'm not. I don't plan on being. I don't plan on falling in line with anybody. I'm here to try and help create change within the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. Not only them, but even the Springfield Police Department. I mean, and let's take it even further. Any other police department that's within the state of Illinois or even the United States, because that's what I signed on to become, to help. So, and just thinking about that, there's still a lot of changes to be made. I know with the commission so far, we've helped to make recommendations with the mental health board to create a mental health board, to even recall the same county sheriff's officer if there was to be another issue such as this. And we've gotten pushback, a lot of pushback. But there's still more recommendations that should and need to be made. So, okay, we got pushback because let's see here. Same County State's Attorney John Milheiser, his assistant state's attorney came on, Joel Benoit came on and said, oh, well, they can't do that. All right, well, guess what? We got some more recommendations. Let's make a recommendation to whereas, all right, you guys want to bring him forward? Let's make a recommendation to whereas we now ask John Milheiser to ask the Illinois Attorney General's office, Kwame Rayo, if the Sami County Board can enact something like that. I mean, what's the pushback on that? Just ask them. It's simple. It's a letter. So let's do that. Not only that, but there's even a petition drive to whereas we can even ask all the residents, hey, sign on to a petition to whereas if we get about what 8, 9,000, even more, then we can recall the Sami County Sheriff's Office if need be. So I think as while we're discussing leadership and change within this Sonia Massey Commission, we need to also recommend those two recommendations as well as if we need to come back within the next 2 weeks, let's do that. Whether it's via Zoom or here, we need to do that. We need to get this, go ahead and let's start making some recommendations again, this over with. And while I'm thinking too, there's also another item that I was trying to think of, but it skipped my mind at the moment. So, but yeah. So that's what I think that we need to go ahead and go forward with at this moment.
Okay. Others? We'll do some summarizing in a bit, but you know, we've started to cover the other questions too. How can we create the right forums and flexibility for community engagement and dialogue? Think about that if you have any other recommendation. We've had several good suggestions about how do we appropriately honor and center the Massey family's leadership as we move forward. Do you feel like we're covering all of the questions now, or any other questions that you might have had brought to mind?
Well, so I've been sorry about that. So I've been put in a position to speak for the family. I speak with the family pretty much, well, almost every day, and they actually have asked me to take charge in regards to the things that are happening here. So whatever needs to be done, I am making this public as of right now. Whatever needs to be done in regards to directing or whatever little jobs need to happen behind the scenes, I am more than willing to do myself. My family has asked me to do it, and that's what I'm here for. So um, if we are looking for new leadership, I definitely want to be a part of that. I will obviously we'll discuss that as a commission, but I am putting my name out there to do what I need to do.
Thank you.
We're sort of moving between questions, so I'm thinking about number 2 and what I've heard, and I'm wondering if there are ways. I mean, the public is invited to the subgroups and the commission to make comment, but we haven't really created spaces for dialogue, and so I'm wondering if at any meeting or at every meeting, if there's a way that we could create uh, some group discussion, you know, instead of public comment with one person speaking to an entire room and no one particularly responding, you know, could we divide into sections and with commissioners and community members to discuss proposals or entertain projects or invite people to make recommendations for projects or action items, so that those ideas inform the work of the commission and the subcommittees. So it's really a question more than a proposal, but
Real quick, I also think since there is a concern from the community what the commission has accomplished, I don't know if this is already implemented and maybe I'm just not aware of it, but if there was a website or something that tracked what has been accomplished, what has been proposed, what's been rejected, and what we are still pushing for, that way, if somebody has a question like, I don't support the commission because it doesn't look like you guys have done anything, we can be like, actually, here are the resources of what we have done, what we are trying to do. That way, it's just like a one-stop shop for information, and that might alleviate some concerns that the commission is not actually doing anything.
Since you're new to the commission, I would say, why don't you take a look with a fresh set of eyes at our website
I will.
and see if you think it meets that suggestion or whether it needs to be beefed up.
Okay, I sure can.
Yeah, okay.
We were just having a side conversation. Are the 6-month reports going on the website? Is that the intention?
Or what?
The 6-month reports going on the website?
Oh, they will.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. That's just a side question. I like Susan's idea of not necessarily saying that we need to do this, but just coming up with maybe some new ideas on how we talk and we engage and we include the community in ways that's both good for them and good for us as both commission members and work group members. So I really like that. I mean, we could even split it into work groups. So depending on what people are interested in hearing in or where their recommendations are, where their needs are, we can be listening to the committee or the community for a certain period of time. Additionally, another just thought that I'm throwing out there, not anything that's a proposal or anything like that, but my aunt used to hold group sessions for teens and their families once every 2 weeks in North Dakota, where I grew up. But it was one of the things that my aunt would tell me. She said that if you feed them, they will come. And I don't want to put more work on anybody or to do anything, but I will tell you when I got here, I was hungry and I was on a phone call from work until 5:45. When I walked in, I ate real quick and I came back out here. And so I think if there's any way that we can make it easier for families and community members and maybe even an incentive for people to come, I think that that would be nice. And that's, again, an idea, not necessarily a recommendation.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I think we know a lot of people as commissioners and people involved with the commission in the city. I think it will be, I have this idea in mind in which you have this either in person or virtual suggestion box, but you engage with groups of people that will give a suggestion. And I'm just because I'm just looking at Sister Marceline and we have worked together for so long, you know, Dominican sisters have great ideas all the time and we work on them, you know, and so we could invite faith-based organizations, civic groups, NGOs, give us recommendations, use this part of the website, host a meeting, you know, that can give ideas for the commission. And that's important. There's a lot of people that are not serving the commission just because we are limited. And we can get ideas from people that are really involved in serving the community and wanting the community, you know, to thrive, and including the issues of police brutality and segregation in the city, right? Racism and so on. We want to change those things. That's one of my ideas. The second idea that I have relates to the fact that for me, as a person that didn't grow up in the United States, the Robert's Rules of Order are a tool of white supremacy, period. It's easy to use Robert Rules of Order for deterring participation. It's anti-democratic. It's hard, and that is the structure that we were giving. And I understand it, but this is one of the happy moments for me in this meeting in which we have suspended the rules of order because they just, deter participation.
Calvin?
Okay, and I've heard everybody's suggestions and honor it, but I guess right now what I want to kind of find out is I know we're talking about the structure, but what are the actual recommendations as far as moving forward? What is everybody recommending that we specifically do? Because I know, the ideal is that maybe that this is not the right structure. So what is the actual recommendation moving forward that we would, pretty much vote on? Okay. I think if you look at the back of this,
I think the co-chairs also said that they were going to recap. I know Joanne's been writing
We are.
Yes.
down
Okay.
both
the
going to.
recommendations that have come thus
Yes.
far that weren't
Yes.
in here. So I think they're
Well,
collecting those to report them out to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
right,
We'll do
right.
that right now. Is there something you
Yeah.
wanted to read?
Well, what
Veronica?
I wanted to talk about is, in the last session that we had, we heard from public comments, right? We had people in the community that said three things that stuck in my mind. One is that we were not representative of the community, that they didn't feel represented by the commission. Two, that it was really hard to find, information about the commission more than that what we do and work during the meetings. Um, and three, that the structure under the county board gives the perception that we're not an independent body, that we cannot make our own decisions, or that we can't really trust our decisions because we respond to the county board. So that prompted us to think, what is the right structure for us to do this work through? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll have some recap going here in just a minute. And Joanne, I'll ask you to do it before I say my piece, okay? But first, Jerry Castles, do you have any comments at all?
That's on. Partly I have a comment because I don't want to be left out of the group. People keep coming up with great ideas that reiterate a lot of the thoughts I had as well, maybe not so eloquently, but and to reflect a little bit, like Calvin said, Commissioner Christian, I'm sorry. I got into this knowing I was going to run into a bunch of brick walls, and I have. And first and foremost, as a retired law enforcement officer, that job didn't define me. I'm also a grandfather and father. I have grandchildren in our community here. And on a personal note, my family is an interracial family as well, and it's really nobody's business. And I don't bring it up just to say, hey, look, I'm like anybody else. I don't mean it that way. But I do know that one of the things that keeps coming up is that a police officer shouldn't be, or law enforcement shouldn't be represented on this commission. So to you, Sante, if the family wants me off of it, I will. I do not want to, but I will because I don't want to impede anything that affects this forward progress of this commission, that we have made forward progress, because our first meeting together, there was a lot of confusion, and some of these people I knew, some I don't, just to get to know somebody and to build that relationships, just to get comfortable where you get a better understanding on, one, how to communicate, and then two, collectively, that group begins to get a little more forward movement. And I think we've snowballed into something, and I noticed that specifically at our last sub meeting, where a lot of input, a lot of positive things. And I guess if we can relate just back and forth one another as people to people, I mean, we all shared that hellacious experience that the Massey family had. And it still lingers, and it should linger, because we're not honoring her life if we don't come up with resolutions and the passion I think each and every one of us have kind of expressed in along the way.
Well, let me answer that by saying I think it's quite the contrary. I think we need Jerry Castles on this committee or on this commission. We need the diversity of thought that everyone brings. So I would the family likes the structure as it is. They watch online every week, and I wouldn't trade this commission in for any other commission. I think you are needed here, Jerry. So I really appreciate you asking that. But you're definitely needed here. So I appreciate it.
Brian?
As we're getting closer to maybe some of the, what is the structure going to look like? What are the process? I think Susan, you hit on something that's for those that have been involved with other projects in Springfield master plan. Anytime IDOT has a new bridge or road construction, there's public engagement ways that can be done. I would want to think about it a little bit more with others as well. We would be the irony is we'd be risking somebody that wanted to maybe with a gotcha Open Meetings Act issue. But the irony would be it's actually what we should maybe try to do and take that risk. I mean, obviously let's not do it haphazardly, but the master plan actually was literally in this room with a bunch of tables, different groups, point person per group. So long as we avoided the majority of a quorum type situation, commissioners could be split up. And I don't know if it has to be that, but I could maybe see how that could work in a commission meeting. I would also say, and Sunshine, you kind of hit on it, some of the work groups, everybody's finding their footing in a different way, in the work groups. I would say we got to kick that into gear. They got to do their work. There's a reason they got created. The commission meetings maybe could be viewed differently in that basically it's just another version of any elected government body where everybody sits up here like this and everybody sits out there like this. And, that's, how do we have these commission meetings? Maybe not always be that, and let the work groups do it. Cause in all honesty, we've had great dialogue in the mental health work groups. It's not perfect. It's not a public forum type thing, but the guests we've had who are on the ground, like that's what we've been building on. And it's a good back and forth. So I would stress the work groups, hammer home, let's get some work done in the work groups. And if we're going to tweak how we engage, maybe, as Susan kind of brought up, there's ways to play around with that on our commission meetings.
Yep.
And Brian, I just want to ask you a
Hey,
question.
Calvin,
Are you
could you put the microphone?
are you saying flout the Open Meetings Act? I just kind of want to clarify that.
Say
a
it
little
again.
bit. The Open Meetings Act that you were discussing, were you saying flout it to whereas we're ignoring it, or?
No, what I was getting at was the irony if we try to engage and somebody sees four people at a table who's a commissioner having a substantive discussion, and that's just off the top of my head, somebody uses that as a gotcha moment when the irony is we're actually trying to build more community engagement.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's irony. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we have less than 4 commissioners at a table,
There's a lot of
then
things.
we're okay?
I don't know that I can answer now, but
I'm just only asking because I strongly believe in FOIA, Open Meetings Act.
Mhm.
I just want to
Yep.
make sure that we're just all,
I'm not even
following
saying
it.
this is possible,
Okay.
but I hadn't thought about it exactly this way before, and
Okay.
to me, it should be thought about because obviously there's a need, and the
Right.
ask has
And I
been
just
made.
want everybody to just be careful with it within, emails, FOIA, Open Meetings Act. We all should be cautious of it and aware of it because, we're here for the people. So
Vanessa, do you have a comment? No, if you don't, it's fine.
Gonna listen a little more. I needed further clarification on as Calvin said, but I'm going to listen right now.
So, so even though we can't do official business, if there are 4 or more of us gathered, all of the conversations and our communications are FOIable. That's right. So we all, I think we understand that, but
Well, just depending on how many that there are, they need to be, we need to make sure that they are open to the public, so.
sure. So the Open Meetings Act and the FOIA rules are different things, but yeah.
But they're pretty much along the same line.
Okay. Joanne, comments?
Test, test. Okay. Um, I just want to take a minute to kind of summarize what I've been hearing
Yeah.
and then what I've missed, I'm
Right.
sure you captured. Just the overall consensus of what we're hearing tonight from the group. Right now, to really show the community what we're striving to accomplish as a commission, to gain traction, not only amongst ourselves as a commission, but with the community as a valid and legitimate body, we should make our presence known at county board meetings more often. Try to not compete with those meetings by hosting our meeting on the same day and time. Continue to regularly update the Massey family at a interval to be determined that works for them, instead of having them seek out information from us or from Sante. Listening circles, healing circles, how that was provided in the very beginning, but we shouldn't make the mistake of assuming that feelings and trauma is not still very present with a lot of community members, and that if not at all public facing meetings, but at least if possible at some, if we could have persons there that are trained, equipped to be able to listen and speak with people if needed. How this work is is an example of a democracy in action, democratic work. How if we could entertain some type of small groups methodology while we're meeting, either at the big meeting, which I call this the big meeting, or the subcommittee meetings, where we can have community engagement. We talked about the rules that might interfere with that, so I won't go any further into that. Beef up the website. We have a website, but perhaps it's not beefed up enough. Perhaps it's the design of it, the dynamics of it need to be improved. Not to give Brianna a job, but Brianna's going to look at it and give us your opinion, because you'd be fresh to it, and tell us exactly what you're saying. We did hear that at that last meeting. People don't even know when the meetings are happening. People don't even know what you're talking about, what you've done. So there are, I'm sure, ways that we can make it a more appealing website that provides more information, right? And then lastly, what I have is, if you feed them, they will come, right? So in the interest of getting more community involvement, more community engagement, knowing that it would be at a cost, but we could figure out that. And to speak to what Dr. Cruz said, this is where having that business support kind of comes in handy.
It does.
Because if we could get the business community to walk alongside us, maybe we can have that food provided, at least at some intervals, maybe not all, but some. And so if we could provide food, because this is the dinner time for most folks, and so coming from work, and make it more appealing to be in attendance at the meetings. Very good conversation, guys. Go ahead, Susan.
So following on Brianna's suggestion, I was scrolling through our website. The minutes aren't there
Okay.
for either the commission or the work groups.
Okay.
That would be immensely helpful for many of us. So that's a concrete suggestion. So both sets of minutes, so anybody can read them. And then I love the idea of having a page where we list our action items and then whatever follow-up work there is. So like we recommended to the county board that they put together a referendum for April to have a recall vote next year, and they failed to pass it. And part of the follow-up then is Senator Turner taking it through the state legislature. I mean, seeing those connections, I think, is important. So if we had like a timetable or a history per action item for what it was and how it's developing, because each of them is going to take time, right? I don't know who's going to do that. Maybe it has to do with how we do future staffing, but maybe that needs to be on a job description.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, so I'll just follow up with the comment on that one. I think that and several other comments you've heard tonight, I think you've described the level of expertise and the amount of work that's needed from our administrative team. Administrative leaders, staff, you can put the label you want on there, but from the very beginning, they've made that happen. That is an excellent website, and it can be made better with the suggestions that we've heard tonight. But that's more work, and up to this point, it's been in-kind volunteer type work. And I think, that can be generalized to several of the statements that we've heard tonight. I think I'm just going to go, this is not in any particular order. So I'm just going to hit a couple of the circles that I put down here. The suggestion about going to the county board meeting, but particularly the county board members and some of the leaders of the county board, coming here even on a regular basis, not only to listen, but to present and answer questions, I think is a good one. The idea of asking the state of Illinois for funding is a good one. And as you hear these things, think about things that could be made into motions, because I'm going to say a few when I'm done. The issue, as Joanne said, about trauma-informed mediator or those with expertise, um, giving kind of a healing circle atmosphere to some of the things that we do. I think that will take, a lot of thought and determination of who and how you do that at meetings like this, but it's a good one. Veronica, democracy. Democracy is when everybody participates. That's not the government have. We have a representative republic, right? But this is where democracy can be in action. And Joanne said that, and I think it's really, really true. Um, I think we'll we'll have to have some more, dialogue about how to do the proper listening and dialogue sessions, and that particularly you brought up, Susan, but several people have said tonight, and uh, the issue of the work groups and how their recommendations come to us is an important one. Does a whole work group come to a commission meeting and say, here's our work, and all of us are at the table for that? That might be as well. Um, I did hear everybody say that we need to keep meeting, and it will take the proper administrative support to do that. And it's not as easy as the public might think. I'm gonna, yeah, I will get to that. That's one as well. Well, getting to those things specifically, um, one of the ideas that was being thrown around before we got to this meeting was that we end this at 6 months. We make a good report. We find some way for the work groups to keep going and finalize their work. I think that you have spoken out as a group that that's not what you'd be recommending. Also, there's been a recommendation that we identify the work that this commission in this form needs to get done right now, and then that maybe the commission takes a little break from meetings at the work groups, continue on, get the recommendations with the commission members coming to those meetings and making sure that it gets done. Just keep that in mind as these other things come up. So here, a possible motion could be to give the chairs of the work groups and the commission co-chairs and presiding officer of the meeting the ability to suspend Robert's Rules of Orders to increase meeting facilitation, engagement, and dialogue. Now, right now, at any time, any one of you commissioners can make a motion to suspend Robert's Rules of Order for a defined period of time, and you did it tonight, right? You can always do that. You could also give that power to whoever is presiding over the meeting to make that call, even at just a suggestion of yours without a motion. That's a potential motion. Another one, we could Calvin moved that the commission formally endorse the local petition drive in support of the recall. We could take action. We could move that we send a letter to the state's attorney requesting that he for a formal opinion on the county board's authority to create a pathway for a recall. I mean, we do have legislation moving along that way now.
I think we should probably, I agree, but I think we should probably do both just in case because, and I know you
We
said
should do what now?
do both.
Do both. I'm not.
And
Yeah, I'm not saying
yeah,
we should.
yeah,
No.
yeah. And that's only just in case because Senator Turner's bill, we don't actually know exactly if that's going to pass. I mean, we would suspect it, but just in case, you know.
Okay. So I'm now just calling an emergency meeting. I'm going to set that aside for a moment and having mentioned those things. Do any of you want to make a motion regarding any one of those things?
Sorry, can I ask one more thing?
You may, right?
There's two things that I didn't say. One is the idea, the flexibility to move the public comments at any point during our discussion and not make our, participants, constituents, people here wait until the end. Is that a motion or is that something that we can just ask, we would like to have public comments at this time? We just discuss something important and not wait until the end?
Well, again, the point is we'd have to suspend Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, we actually function by those, and we've drawn up our rules related to the Open Meeting Act. But we could have a motion for that, or we could have a motion to allow the chairs to do that. Okay. And then all we need to do is recognize it and do it. Obviously, those presiding over the meeting would have control over the length of time that was the question or the speaking could occur.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the democratic process, right?
Yeah.
To have people not wait until the very end or play with the camera so they cannot be, like city council has done. Horrendous. That's one thing. The second one is that we have a lot of people that watch this meeting online, some of them with disabilities that cannot make it to a building and they want to participate. And I get messages very often from people online that would like to ask questions. Is there a way for them to do that?
I don't know the answer to that question. We can answer that question. Those that have a pipeline to you can text you. And, so we have a pretty good social media system now. So Susan and then Sunshine.
So as the Presbyterian pastor here, one of the skills or limitations I bring is that we function in Robert's rules a lot. So you don't have to suspend Robert's rules in order for community members to speak. We as a body can vote to give someone voice.
You can vote to do it. This motion would just give the chairs the right to do that without the vote.
Two different things. We don't have to suspend Robert's rules to invite other people to speak.
Right.
The moderator can ask the board to grant Marceline voice to speak. Right, but the board has to, the board has the authority to grant voice, not
Yes.
vote, to anybody without us suspending Robert's rules. So there are different ways to achieve so like if there's someone in particular who wants to speak to a discussion topic, we could recognize a community member and grant them voice to speak.
Fine.
So there are options to do that. Yeah.
So we're getting all the options on the table tonight, which is Bob. Maybe you just keep those microphones on. And then Sunshine, we'll get to you then.
Well, one of the things about suspension as opposed to recognition is that permits the kind of dialogue that we've been trying to get to this evening. So, I mean, I don't know Robert's Rules of Order, but if it's accurate that we can suspend at any moment for a single speaker, that's cool. But what that motion says is that we can suspend it as we did this evening for an open discussion.
Sunshine.
I forgot part of what I was trying to respond to.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. But I know you were asking about what motion out of what you said. I definitely want to move forward with Calvin's motion or Commissioner Christian's motion about the letter, because I honestly thought we had already done that. We've talked about that for a little while, and I thought that it was already either in the works or done. So I definitely would like to make a motion for us to do that letter, and also will say in response to Commissioner Espina's question about how people can submit information, I will try to do a better job of including the email address that we have for submissions, like on social media posts and things, so that people know what that is. I never thought to include that. And I know we had talked about potentially creating a QR code for people to do submissions. I don't know if that ever happened, but I will make sure that we start putting that on our Facebook page.
I'll read that motion in just a moment, but Bree.
Well, since we're talking about granting the public access to speak at any moment, Lakeisha, I think, had something she wanted to say in regards to Robert's rule. So would it be okay if we invited Alderwoman Purchase to mention something? I'm assuming it would help us in this decision. Can that be granted?
Just
Dr. Jerry, I was just going to say, it's just like at city council, when we have an ordinance and someone signs up to speak specifically to that ordinance, we'll ask when we make our motion and we'll say we have 3 people signed up to speak and they only can speak particularly to that ordinance. So we don't need to make a motion or anything. And I would just mimic what we were doing. I just was listening to you talk and just wanted to make that recommendation.
Thank you. It's helpful.
And I think since we've suspended Robert's rules, we don't necessarily have motions to make. So maybe we want to move back and receive motions, or we can say, hey, what Calvin suggested and Sunshine moved, who all's in agreement?
Hey, we've suspended the rules. I think we can have our motions,
I think that we need to move to
And,
motion.
we'll get back to the rules later tonight, maybe. We'll see. Or maybe we're so far gone with Robert's rules now.
No, we should make the motion.
We should. So Sunshine made that motion. Do you want me to read what you said?
Sure.
Motion that we send a letter to the state's attorney requesting that he seek a formal opinion on the county board's authority to create a pathway for recall.
From the Attorney General's office.
What?
From the Attorney General's office.
From the Attorney General. Yeah,
Correct.
right.
And I kind of want to amend your motion too. I kind of want to amend your motion as well.
Go for it.
Okay.
You second that?
I second it, but I want to amend it.
Okay. Wait. Yeah. You amend it, and we'll see if she accepts it. We are not, right?
Okay, so my amendment is still as though Rakisha and Megan, we still need to get people into their positions. So as of right now, With amending it, I would like to schedule a meeting for March.
That's a different motion. We're gonna get to that.
We can't put it all together.
No, we're not gonna
Okay,
put them all
we'll
together.
go ahead and
No.
okay.
And we'll get to that one in just a second.
Okay.
So is there a second for
Well,
the
I'll
letter?
second.
Okay, and a lot of people have seconded. Is there further discussion to this motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, here's another one. Is there a motion that the commission formally endorse the local petition drive in support of recall? So moved by Susan Phillips, seconded by Brianna Roberts. Is there discussion to that one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, that motion carries. Now, this one, having heard all of the discussion about Robert's Rules of Order, that we now know that we can give the chairs and the co-leads the ability to increase meeting facilitation, engagement, and dialogue. We really don't need a motion for that. True? So that resides with a vote of the commission or in the power of the chairs. Okay, now, Calvin, we'll get to the next one. So the way that we have been operating for looking for the administrative support and administrative leads for the commission has been operating through a selection committee of 3 members of the commission and facilitated by Rakisha Falan. Those members are Joanne and Bob Wesley and me. And I think that's the process by which we've been operating. Is there a desire to do this in a different way?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Well, the question is, we've been gathering applications. A lot of times the people, not a lot of times, throughout this whole process, the people who have applied, many of them have other jobs and oftentimes are not in the position to have their names released publicly. And so we've been trying to do this work with a subcommittee rather than with the entire commission. Obviously, the approval would need to be done at the commission, as is often the case with commissions and other bodies like this, that a recommendation come forward and that's discussed and voted on.
I think, I'm so sorry. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think not only should the commission be involved, but I think this should also be public information, not necessarily opening the discussion for public input, but just so there's, again, that transparency of what steps are we taking, who are we looking at, and why have we made this decision, and what the community feels about it doesn't necessarily have to influence our decision, but it, again, gives them the ability to be a part of the commission and speak to us and for us to be transparent.
I was just going to say, I'm fine with it, like a co-chair or a subcommittee group overseeing the bulk of this, but as long as, and you did state that the commission itself would be able to weigh in on this, and maybe that could be elevated a little more, such as us knowing what questions are being asked, because I don't have to necessarily become part of the process and be on all the interviews, whatever that looks like, but maybe just a little more input from the commissioners before decisions are made. I know they have not been made yet, but I think that could be potentially helpful.
I will use the same practice that we use in anti-racism training, and I would like to recommend that you have the same amount of people of color and white people doing that selection.
Well, the
Within the hiring
bringing the
group,
candidates forward that,
within the people that do the interview, the hiring group, the
candidates themselves or the ones who interview, oh, the panel, right.
whatever committee is reviewing these resumes and interviewing should have the same amount of people of color and white
Yeah.
people in that committee.
So we've had that, Calvin.
My opinion about it is that I believe that it should be the commissioners that are interviewing the candidates and making a recommendation, whether it's maybe some of the commissioners who decide if they want to be part of the hiring commission. But I think that it definitely needs to be the commissioners that are putting an input into this. Uh, Not only that, but I know that we're trying to have the commission go forward. I think that it needs to be soon rather than later. Whether if we're having, as I say before, a meeting on March 24th. But that's my position on this.
Do you mean commissioners instead of co-chairs?
I think it needs to be the commissioners. I think the commissioners need to be the ones that's making the decision in regards to this, not the co. I mean, probably the co-chairs as well as have an input, but I think the commissioners need to have an input on this.
Is okay, so check me on the open meeting stuff. We couldn't have 4 or more of our commission interviewing candidates without it being public.
Correct. And if it needs to be public, and that's why I say the March 24th date to where it is public. I mean, if people want to participate or be hired, then why it shouldn't be public. I think it should be public. I think the candidates, if they want to be director of the commission, then yes, I think it needs to be public to whereas we are asking them questions in front of public. No different than Senate confirmations. So that's
And
So,
if I understood you right, Dr. Cruz, one of the things that you all have tried to do, let's just imagine you had 10 applicants for a job. I'm not sure the whole commission, you're suggesting that all 10 should be interviewed by the whole commission, or is it okay for a subcommittee to narrow the field?
I think they all should be interviewed by the whole commission.
And if I'm understanding,
Unless if we want to make a motion to where there is a subcommittee, but I think that should be a determination made by the commission tonight instead of we're just, emailing about who all or the co-chairs are just deciding who's going to be on that subcommission. I think that needs to be something that's decided on and voted on by the commission while we're here tonight.
okay, that's helpful to hear your clarification. And what I'm hearing you say, Dr. Cruz, is that some applicants may be employed elsewhere, and to be interviewed publicly would jeopardize their other job.
yes,
And that in terms, like personnel is one of the areas that commissions often go into executive session
yes.
where it isn't public, but I don't know how that fits with open meetings law.
I mean, we can go into executive session. Why not?
I don't know how.
But I don't know who all would say that it would jeopardize their job if they're,
So we had decided not to do those types of executive session. Usually they're done for personnel and disciplinary reasons, but I don't know. Does anyone else want to say anything? I mean, yeah. But before you say that, all of the questions in the scoring rubrics are in the book. You've all got them,
correct.
so they're there. They've been, yeah.
Dr. Jerry, me and Alderwoman Nutriano, just listening to you all, this is how it played back for the city clerk position. And so we can't have more than 3 of us even here speaking or even bringing something to your attention for city council. But if you do executive session, you can do it that way. Or we had to explain how we wanted to do the process publicly because we couldn't have just a narrow amount of individuals in one room. So I would say what Calvin Christian said, you do it openly, or you go into executive session to do it where it's still you all doing it for that privacy of those individuals who don't want to be revealed through their employment. And that makes it really simple then too. And just trying to help y'all not recreate. those.
And I
Certainly.
still think that you're still skirting the lines because usually with executive session, that's for disciplinary issues. It's not for hiring issues. Because if for hiring issues,
Oh, it varies, most assuredly is for hiring issues. I mean, I know that boards always vote on the final candidate, but the process up to that point is frequently in executive
Yeah,
session.
Calvin, we do a lot when you hear us call executive
Yeah.
session.
I bet.
Yeah, so like Dr. Jerry just said, we
Yeah.
discuss personnel issues within executive session and then determine after it's done what could come out of executive session.
But that's
to
if
be-
they're already hired, though. Not if you're interviewing them for a specific position, though. That's after they're already a personnel. That's when you go into executive session.
You can kind of tote the line a little bit, but you do got an attorney on y'all commission too that can help
Yeah.
y'all with that. I just wanted to let Dr. Jerry know, so you guys are not trying to recreate something.
Yeah.
We just had something like what you all are talking about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, okay, there's, I suppose the question right now is, whether we proceed the way we do it or whether there's a motion to do this in a different way. We could explore some of the nuances in the way that we've functioned already. And I suppose that we could, as we did that, we could certainly have the ability to call a special meeting or to call some other kind of session. But the big question right now is whether we proceed as we have for these positions now, or we do that in a different way.
You know what? Can we, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion to recess for about 5 minutes.
To
The
what?
board to recess for about 5 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to recess for 5 minutes. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Uh, All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll be back. We'll be back at 7:50.
Glad to see Bree. That's all.
Reconvene. Time to come back.
Look how big sign Massey name boy is, man. It's been months with me saying nothing about sign Massey. Keep her name alive. All right, baby.
Oh, no, one thing I would say, but I'm worried about getting appropriate. Why did you say it? I do want to try. I think I was about on my own way. Oh. We were talking about. They just walked out.
Oh, yeah. As long as I like that. It sometimes feels like a drive with me, but that's part of the words. Yeah.
That part is.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Are we ready? Did he go?
Okay, let's call the meeting back to order. Um, Continue the discussion. Susan, it looks like you have a comment.
I did. I was going to say that a member of the community had a couple of questions but they're needing to leave. Could they ask those questions and maybe we put them later on the agenda? But
That would be fine.
okay.
I have those quick questions and then we'll go on from there.
Hello, everyone. I was just curious I know I've asked you all this a bunch of times. The third co-chair position what's the reason for not filling it since Shadia Massey stepped down?
We've had a process for that, and I don't think we're at liberty to say anything else at the moment.
Okay. And then, the director position, what's a realistic timeline for hiring something like that for this? And is that a full-time commitment for someone?
It's a full-time commitment.
Yeah. What's the time frame for filling that spot, given that it's already been months and I don't want to say rudderless, but struggling with some procedural stuff? It would be good to have a director.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be good to have.
So I'm just asking, what's the
So-
time frame that you predict for the community so I can?
I have no
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
I mean, we've got applications
Yeah.
for my opening statement. All of the things, the factors listed there were ones that have prevented us from getting where we needed to go with that. That's
Okay.
all I'll say.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, I just want to weigh in on number one and say that's a no-brainer with the county board. I think we all know that's probably the last legislative body. Nope, sorry, Dr. Cruz. Have a nice night.
Okay.
Were you asking me to facilitate a discussion?
No.
Okay, good.
I just thought it looked like you had another question. Is there any other comment on the issues that we've had tonight?
Well, I think before we left, the director role, I think that's important. And I think that we need to get that fulfilled before April 1st. And I know Evan was speaking in regards to this. Let's get so I know we had some applications that was in, but I would say that let's schedule another meeting for March 24th to where we're actually interviewing the candidates before the commission. And that would be my motion to whereas we're interviewing candidates for the director position March 24th, or unless if somebody else has a different date that they would suggest, but that would be my motion. That would be on the floor tonight.
So your motion is to schedule a
March,
special meeting on or about March 24th, specifically to interview candidates.
correct.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there further discussion to that motion?
I think we need to distinguish if it's going to be a final candidate or is it just a candidate that applied?
I think the March 24th meeting, we could actually settle on an actual candidate.
I guess to build off of that, yes, depending on where we are in that process already. So I know for the administrative role, we had somebody selected, had to go back on that decision. So for the administrative role, are we keeping the finalist or are we going back to look at the applicants? And then also, where are we in? I know you were just kind of asked this, but with whatever you are able to discuss publicly, where are we in the terms of selecting applicants or finalists for the director role?
I'll just say two things. I'll say we have possibilities. And I will say for the work of the commission and the work groups to continue, we do need people in that position.
I would actually like to go a little bit further with my motion as well and actually reopen it to whereas if they would like to be some type of role to make sure that all applications and resumes are submitted by March 17th, which is next Monday.
I didn't understand what you meant.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Calvin, but are you saying right now, open it up and say, we are filling 2 positions. If you're interested in applying, please submit your interest and your resume by March 17th.
March 17th, correct.
Well, it's
I,
we're,
I,
we- we've done that.
We have done that.
It's been wide open.
It's been,
yeah, I
And-
feel
We've,
like we're
we've sought
taking,
candidates, you
Why
know.
and the reason why I was asking that was because I don't know where Evan went, but he was asking that as well. So, I mean, if we gotta reopen it to the March 17th, let's go ahead and do that. And then we interview by March 24th and we make a determination by that date.
The position has not been closed.
it's,
Okay.
it remains open.
Okay, great. That's what I want to. Okay.
Kristen?
I, I guess I feel like there is, and from listening to Dr. Cruz, there's a lot of nuance that has already gone into trying to find a candidate, trying to fill somebody for this position. I don't know that there's anybody who wants somebody for this position more than Dr. Cruz because he is having to offload a ton of work onto people who already have full-time jobs. I don't know that opening it up to all of us makes the process go faster. I think that it slows it down, and I don't know what all the nuances are, but we would need to get into those. And I don't feel comfortable scheduling a date that we're deciding on a candidate when there is all these nuances that we're not privy to right now. I think I feel very comfortable with the structure that we have right now. I hope that it does move forward faster, especially with the imminent need and knowing that we had support that will no longer be there at the end of the month. And I think that I am going to support you all as you move forward with who you think is trusted. And I hope that we can look at the candidate and then vote on it. I think that that's a fine process that I feel comfortable with.
Susie?
I think there are values that we have adopted that that are maybe a little bit in tension. So I think transparency is vital, and I also think respecting the confidentiality of candidates is important. I think it's respectful. Like I would be very uncomfortable interviewing multiple candidates for one job in front of all creation and then hiring one as opposed to the other. I think that risks damaging relationships rather than building them. Although, to Veronica's point, if the interview committee were 4 people, 2 people of color and 2 white folks, that would be more in keeping with anti-racist practices. Um, hey, Calvin, would you be interested, willing, available to be a 4th, since you seem very vested in this process?
So it's just so you know, then we were talking about the open meeting acts.
Mhm.
Rakisha being a non-commissioner was the 4th person on the selection committee.
Oh,
So it was 2 and 2.
okay. So that was an important piece of information that we didn't have. I thought it was just the 3 of you. Okay.
I would like to say, I don't think that we have time for nuance anymore. There has to be some set guideline and timeline, and I do think that needs to be decided today. Um, I do think that the way it's structured, so with the 2 and 2, I see how that's a good decision. I agree with not necessarily opening up with the commissioners. So even though I said that earlier, now reflecting, I do think that would make it messy and take a lot more time. So what I support with your proposal is the timeline. So making as much access to allowing the public to know that the application is open until the 17th. I know it's been open, but I personally haven't seen it like circulating anywhere. So maybe if we could get some social media post going to like, and I will offer my time to make that happen if we have to, where we set up a post to go out every day or multiple times a day until the 17th. That way, we are potentially reaching applicants. On the 17th, it closes. The overlooking of resume process starts, and then a decision is made between the 4 of you on the 24th. But I do think that we need to decide on a timeline before this meeting ends today, since we are getting close to us not having them at all. And I think maybe that's where the focus should be for obviously not the remainder of this meeting, but we shouldn't move on from this discussion until we decide an exact timeline and then move forward.
And I just want to echo off you as well. I agree with that. I think that there needs to be a set timeline. And I think that it needs to be the 24th to where a decision is made. Um, and I don't know if I should probably say this publicly, but Rakisha and Megan, they've done a fantastic job. It's not often seen in the public, but if even, we've noticed and recognized all the hard work that they put into this commission, and sometimes it's not the people that's on the front line, but it's the people on the back line that you don't see, you don't recognize, you don't know. So, and I just want to tell them both, thank you. Really, thank you. So, and I think that they put in the commitment and the timeline, even extending the timeline that they can even do. And I think now is within this month we need to go ahead and select a replacement for them. So, thank you.
I have maybe what's might be a logistical question about the funding for this position. Do we have to have the person identified before we can request the funding to the county board? Because in my mind, I feel like we should ask for the funding now and just say XYZ is, this is the position that we're trying to fund, or does it have to be we identify who it is?
The county board has committed the funding, but they have to sign the contract.
Okay, so we don't have to request
We
funding, then
don't
we
have
just
to
have
request
to.
funding, but we do have to have it signed by them.
Right. Okay, I thought we had
And
to
that,
submit
so they have
requesting
to
the
approve it.
funding as
They
well.
have to approve the contract.
Right, okay, that makes sense. I thought we had to request the funding first, so I was just trying to think of a way to speed up the process. So if that's already committed and identified, that's fine. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I think everybody that I've served on before have had some sort of hiring process and, a group of people that hire. I don't think that we all need to be in that committee. I think that that is specialized thing. You guys meet, conduct the interviews, and, if you want to get feedback from us, you can, because I think that you also talk about feedback and transparency. But I think that having this group set up and the 4 people is going to speed up the process, and we want that person hired as soon as possible.
Okay.
So would the correct way to like amend the motion be taking out the public interviewing, but remaining with the timeline of the applications closing on the 17th and the interview process being done on the 24th?
Just what would be for the motion to be withdrawn.
Okay.
And sorry, who actually is doing the interviewing too?
The 4.
Which is
Bob Wesley, Joanne Johnson, Rakisha.
okay.
We just can't have another commissioner because of the Open Meetings Act.
Sorry? Yes, you may speak.
There are some challenges with the timeline. However, if another commissioner could take the place that I had on the hiring committee, then we should be able to move forward with all deliberate speed. And I have a recommendation, but I am not on the commission.
I
So
can do that. I could take your place. So I guess what that would be the motion to whereas I would take Rakisha's place. We would do it by the timeline to whereas by the 17th, all resumes that want to be considered are in by then. The 24th, we will actually make a final recommendation on who we would approve to be director. Okay, that is my motion.
How does this work with the Open Meetings Act? I thought we couldn't have 4 commissioners. 4 is the max?
What? Oh, 4's the max. Okay.
Oh, I thought it was 3.
Sorry,
So
just so
there's-
everybody could hear, she said there was a change in the quorum, so she is recommending that we look into that.
What did you recommend? I know the quorum.
12?
13.
So it's half plus 1.
So we can't have a majority of the quorum. So we've been operating as 4.
Okay.
We need to go down to 3. Is that the recommendation?
Wait, can you say that closer to the mic? I didn't hear you.
We had been operating with the number 4 being our limit as in terms of making sure we did not hit the majority of a quorum. Because our numbers have changed, the recommendation is that we use the number 3 instead, that we should not have more than 3 commissioners gathered. So that would be a committee of 3 instead of 4.
So with that, how would we balance Veronica's recommendation of having the same amount of like Black people to white people while also not having 4 commissioners in the hiring process. Oh, just two? I think that's a good idea. Hold on.
I'm sorry, I thought a quorum was 1 plus half the numbers. There's,
which is half plus one. So it would be half of whatever the commissioners is plus
never mind.
Okay.
It's 3. 13, quorum is 7. Less than half of that quorum is 3.
Okay.
So then I guess, is everybody okay with it just being Dr. Cruz and Joanne?
But
I
they're
like the
not-
idea of having the 4 with Rakisha. Rakisha's been doing the job.
I
and
think
it
she just
makes-
said
Oh, you
there
don't
was
want to do it anymore.
conflict.
Oh, she can't do it. Oh,
We don't want to
okay.
put more work on you than you
No,
already
no.
have. Is that something you would possibly be able, like, you would be willing to do?
Um,
So no. Okay, that's fine. So then I think the only recommendation we have, if we're worried about balance, would be it just being them two.
Okay, so Calvin, are you withdrawing your original motion?
correct.
Do you withdraw your second? And then did you make another motion just then?
Yes, so the motion would be for the hiring process to be by Dr. Cruz and Commissioner
Yes.
Johnson. And I still recommend the timeline of the applications no longer being accepted after the 17th and the interview process being completed by the 24th while still maintaining transparency.
And
Okay.
also maybe even a meeting on the 24th to whereas we're
Yes.
accepting the recommendation on the
Just,
24th and
Yes.
sending
let's
it.
just say a meeting on or about the 24th.
Yes.
That would be
For
fine.
our schedules, you know, I can't be here the 24th.
That's fine.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. Um, so there's a motion and a second for that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Okay, the next portion of business related to engagement of the public, and we had in your packet a recommendation for some relatively formal rules that would be followed while we're operating under Robert's Rules of Order. They might seem a little bit antithetical compared to the discussion tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and read that section so everyone here can hear that. This is a this is a this is a proposed policy on intermittent audience comment and general public comment periods. It'll take a little while to read it. Section 1, purpose. This policy establishes a structured approach to public comment, ensuring meaningful engagement while maintaining orderly proceedings. It introduces intermittent audience comment periods in addition to the general public comment session, fostering more collaborative dialogue while preserving meeting structure and efficiency. Section 2, number 1, general public comment period. A public comment session will be held at the end of each meeting for general remarks. Each speaker will be allotted up to 3 minutes with a total time limit of 1 hour, inclusive of intermittent audience comments. Number 2, questions on agenda items. Before the commission acts on an agenda item, members of the public may pose brief questions. The chair may invite audience questions before debate begins, with each speaker giving up to 30 seconds to represent a question. Responses should be concise and relevant to the topic. Total time allotted to this discussion will be decided by the presiding officer, chair of the meeting. 3, intermittent audience comment period. After At the discretion of the presiding officer chair or upon a majority vote, additional brief public comment periods may be allowed during deliberation on complex topics. Speakers must address remarks to the chair and adhere to established time limits. The chair has authority to maintain order and limit comment periods to ensure efficient meetings. Audience questions and comments outside the general public comment period must be relevant to the agenda and conducted respectfully. Section 3, decorum. A, respectful speech. Personal attacks, insults, defamatory remarks will not be tolerated. Constructive dialogue and respectful disagreement are encouraged. B, a space for healing, not harm. This forum is intended to foster understanding and positive change. Comments that promote hostility, misinformation, or disruption will be addressed appropriately. C, prohibition of hate speech, threats, and profanity to maintain a welcoming environment, particularly for youth engagement. Profanity is discouraged. Discriminatory, harassing, or threatening language is strictly prohibited. D, agreement to guidelines. By participating in public comments, audience members agree to adhere by these guidelines and contribute to a productive and respectful session. Section 4, suspension or modification. The commission may suspend or modify these rules by a majority vote if necessary to accommodate special circumstances. Is there a motion to adopt those rules? Is there a second? Second. Is there a comment?
Yes. Uh, uh, I know it was suggested by or mentioned by Alderwoman Purchase earlier regarding like the way city council operates, and they have people come up and speak, to serve, which sounds like this is as how we're going to do it, but I'm unclear if people would need to indicate that when they sign up, or if we will just be asking the audience when this is what we're talking about now, and then after that we'll say, is there any comment on this? Because if people are going to have to identify that when they sign up, we don't have ordinance numbers like city council does. So I'm trying to figure out how they would know what they want to speak to, because our agendas are fairly vague. And if we are gonna ask them to identify at the sign up, I would like to have that indicated in the managing director information, that they would need to articulate some clarity on that so that the community knows what to say they want to speak to.
So to answer your question, Alderman Purchase did clarify for me before she left that, yes, the person would have to indicate when they signed up that they wanted to make comment. In their meetings, it's based on an ordinance number. So a topic or a subject on the agenda item would have to be clarified when they signed up that they wanted or had a question or a comment about that particular thing. So I agree that we would have to figure out a way to make the agenda items more descriptive for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. And can we also I don't think it says anything on the sign up sheet other than like a line for your name or whatever. Can we edit them and put this decorum, like if we agree to this, put that on the sign up sheet so that when they might not, probably not gonna read it, but so that when they're signing up, we've it's stated for them to see as well. And we can, read it or post it or whatever as well, but can we also edit the layout of the sign up sheet and put that on there so that people are seeing that when they sign up?
We can do that.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good evening. I'm Teresa Haley. I show up at city council meetings a lot. Sometimes I call in if I know the subject matter that they're going to be discussing. However, there are a lot of times that we show up for city council meetings or committee meetings as a whole, and something hits you that impacts you and your community that you need to speak out on. So I think we need to be really careful about saying that we need to sign up in advance and you need to have suggested topics next to it, because what you're going to do is you're going to turn a lot of people off, and it's going to create more hostility instead of the unity that we're trying to get to. Thank you.
this gives the presiding officer the opportunity to do that, actually.
A lot of times people won't know what they want to say. Yeah.
May I?
think there's like a mic one.
Um,
No, go ahead.
I appreciate the intent. I'm a little bit concerned about the way this is structured, and what's coming to mind is the listening session that the DOJ had over at the church back in, was that September? And they invited people to sign up, and I signed up last, just like in case, well, near the end anyway, just in case there was anything I thought I needed to add after everybody spoke. And then they started, after everyone signed up, then they started the announcement that we're going to have 30 minutes where 15 people get 2 minutes each to tell us about what they're feeling. And then we're going to have 30 minutes of 15 people, 2 minutes each, to recommend proposals, to recommend solutions. And it was like, oh dear God, this is going to go sideways fast. And it did, because it didn't attend to the needs of the people in the room. And I understand the intent of this. I do not like being yelled at. Anybody else like being yelled at? Nobody likes being yelled at. People yell when they feel like they're not being heard. And so maybe what we intend is to say to folks, we really want to hear what everyone has to say relevant to the topics we're trying to discuss today. I mean, it's not a space for every comment about anything. I mean, we need to stay on topic. But this feels like it's an attempt to control rather than invite.
Yeah, it is.
Get the mic.
It is an attempt to control, to keep things from getting out of hand. So you're exactly right. Whether that means you're not invited, that's an interpretation. But yeah, this is meant to control the interchange.
I'm just gonna say I understand what you're trying to imply by what you just said, but I do not think saying that we are attempting to control public comment is the best way to gain public support, because that word has really heavy negative connotation. And I know, again, that might not have been your intention, but wording is really important when you're talking about a topic like this. I attend city council frequently, and like, I genuinely don't entirely see an issue with their speech policy, besides the fact that there's not a lot of leniency. City council has gone from being pretty lenient to not being lenient and being over controlling. And that is something that I really do want to avoid with this commission, because I don't want it to turn out to be like city council. So I do think pre-signups is a good idea. I like the paper signups. I like having people sign up day of. I do think an online option might be a good idea for people who have more structured speech ideas, but I do not want to get rid of the paper sign up day of. Maybe time wise, if we were to limit the amount of day of signups, which that can kind of get messy. I can see how that could cause conflict, but that's why you also might want to offer prior sign up before.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying completely, and we
Yeah.
could certainly consider that as part of it. Yeah.
We still give people the ability to sign up and to speak, but we're not having like 30 people sign up advance and then also 30 people sign up day of because somebody said a sentence that upset them.
Yeah.
I do think conversation is important, but I do think there needs to be better structure to how that happens.
Well, this certainly limits the total amount of time, and you know, it's different than the listening sessions that we have. So, yeah.
I think after the meeting that we had in February, a couple of us talked about listening sessions that needed to be more often. And I think that there is a difference between coming to the meeting and having a public comment on the work we're doing and things that we're preparing and, the work groups and so on. And besides that, in a parallel way or, schedule ways, we should continue to have those listening sessions. I mean, rioting is the language of the unheard, right? We should, that day in part was difficult because you could feel people not only sad and upset, but also there was so much grief and anger, right? So I think we can all agree that we need more listening sessions, and public comments should have these guidelines. People should know what they're signing up for, and that we are expecting them not to attack people, not hate speech, and so on. And perhaps we can facilitate more listening sessions before the end of the year.
I know something that we might want to consider, excuse me, as well is, and I'm not sure if this is something that we can do, but we need to find a consistent place to meet. People are trying to figure out where this meeting's going to be and where that meeting's going to be, and you know, a lot of it's getting lost in translation because no one simply knows where to go. um, if we find one specific building or one specific place where we can have our meetings consistently, then I think more people would show up.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I was just going to say that the county board area, like they've remodeled, and I think they have a recording system in place now. Like, so their meetings will be live streamed. So I was going to say that could be potentially a good place to have a consistent meeting, and also ensure that we never meet the same night as them if we'd be using the same space. But it's centrally located. There's a parking lot that's open to the public right across, and that could potentially be an option. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. That has been suggested to us. So thank you for those comments. So we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. The motion was to approve the policy that I read, and we had the discussion, and so it was to approve
Thanks.
that, and there was a second. Yeah, we weren't talking about the meeting place. Sorry about that. Okay, so we are voting on the motion to approve the policy that was just read. All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thanks. Okay. Oh, we'll do a roll call. Yeah, that's fine. Anybody can call for a roll call vote. Joanne?
Jerry Castles. Kristen Rubalke.
Aye.
Sunshine Clemens.
Aye.
Brian Wojcicki.
Aye.
Vanessa, I'm sorry, I don't have.
I think. I'm not quite sure what.
Get a mic.
There should be more discussion on that.
I don't support it 100% the way it's written. I think there should be some kind of amendment to that. So if that is taken as a nay, then I would have to have nay.
Okay.
Okay. Susan?
Nay.
Phillips?
Nay. Aye.
Calvin? Chris, hang on. Veronica
Aye.
Espina? Bob Wesley?
Aye.
Brianna Roberts?
Aye.
Sante Massey?
And this is for
The
It
how,
was just-
how to address public comment,
nay.
this policy that was just read. I'm an aye.
Aye. So motion carries. What?
What was the count?
1, 2, it was 4 against,
2,
9 in favor.
4, 5. I have 4 again. I have Vanessa, Susan, Calvin, Brianna. No, you were aye. Sante. That's 4.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Okay, I've got one other thing just to consider. I'd mentioned it earlier. We never got completely to it. There there had been a suggestion. Well, first of all, we'll put aside the selection of the administrative team, which we've got a motion for and we'll move forward with. But there had been a suggestion to suspend the public meetings of the commission in April and May to give more time for work groups to focus on their research recommendations and to bring those recommendations fully to the commission, after that break in time. I think, we'll have to see how the selection of the administrative team goes and how everything moves forward for sure. But I just didn't want to leave that hanging out there without bringing it back for a last moment for comment if that needed to be done.
I think we should continue meeting, even if it's to discuss the ongoing work of the committee so that the rest of the commission is up to speed and we can maybe we can have some of the community discussion we've talked about.
Maybe they'll be ready to do it. That seemed to be the consensus of our discussion before. There's no change in that. I just wanted to, okay, that's fine. All right. Thank you very much. Now, it's time for public comment. We ask that the speakers that have signed up be ready to give their presentation. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes and will be called in order in which they signed up. The comment period is limited to less than an hour. Do I have a list? I'm sorry? Two, okay. Zach Long? Yeah. And then Tom Davis, okay. Let's see, yeah. Would you like to use this? There, it's working. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I was gonna talk about some things, but man, this back and forth tonight was very draining. I think the people that did show up had that sentiment, and I feel like when there's a lot of back and forth like that, I know that we're trying to get some things done and get, policy and procedure and all of that, but I feel like it loses the community. So, like, we had two people walk out that I know we're going to probably speak to the commission and about the things that were going on, but I just think that there was just so much back and forth that nobody really is grasping all of these things. And I think this type of stuff shouldn't really be put to us, the community, because we don't know that. That's all like jargon that should be done behind closed doors, I think, until things are brought to kind of an agreement to where we know where things are going as far as like the minutes, everything is kind of on organized. It was very unorganized tonight, I think. And I agree with everybody, as far as like this commission needing to continue to meet and move forward, because I believe there is just continuous work that, as Sunshine said, like everybody's starting to get their footing, people are starting to come. I mentioned at city council last week about some of the alder people coming if they could. Two of them came. As you see, they left. I mean, it was just a lot tonight, and I just don't think that there was a lot accomplished for the community, for the family. And I think that we're better than that as a whole, as work people, as the commission, and as the work groups. So I would just, I would, I would want everybody to try to work towards that a little bit better, just to kind of like tidy things up a little bit more. And I know it's, nobody's like actual fault. It just kind of how everything went with the conversation. But um, I think also, with having like a meeting place designated somewhere, I mean, we have the community center, the Salvation Army. I mean, I'm sure that they would be very willing to, lend space, stuff like that. As far as like worrying about like food and stuff like that, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Black-owned businesses that would be more than welcome to, cater to whatever event that we ask, just off of the strength of the Massey family. So I don't think, at probably little to no cost. So I don't think even getting like money involved is a problem in that era. But yeah, and then also, a lot of us have kids. Here it is going on 9 o'clock. You know, my kid is on spring break, thankfully. A lot of people's aren't, but maybe even having something to where we can include the children to come, not necessarily where they're in on grown-up business, but having a space where the kids can come and play or whatever. I just think that we can think outside of the box in order to get more community involvement because as we all know, the county board is watching, and when they see like literally 10 people here, they're not going to be inclined to want to do anything that we're going to recommend or anything, which I am going to get with you, Ms. Phillips, about some of the recommendations that you would like, because as you said, and it's clear, like we cannot continue to come up here with anger because we have to have solutions and things like that, and or we're just going to be unorganized like it was tonight. So I'm willing to try to do that, but I just think that we need, whether it's us get together and go to like the black churches, on Sundays and say, hey, this is when the next committee meeting is going to be. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can utilize as resources. I know as growing up in the black church, like me and Sunshine's family grew up in the church together. So, like, I mean, when you put stuff to the church, 9 times out of 10, they gonna show up. So I think that there's a lot of people that would like to show up. One of my friends told me tonight they have no idea like about any of this. So I just feel like even though there's a lot of good ideas, websites, stuff like that, I'm not saying that nobody's like lacking on that. I just don't think that it's getting presented to the community in the way that it should. So, I don't know if like we talk to radio stations. I don't know. I don't know. And as far as like, I know I'm kind of going over my time, but we only got two people. So, um, but like even as far as like the hiring process, narrow it down to like 4 or 5 candidates that do not mind being, you know, like out in the public about their situation, because there are places that are supportive of this commission and this committee and the stance of, whoever is involved with this. So I just think that there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of narrow that down. I do agree with uh, Calvin's, amendment of saying like having something on the 24th, because by the time the 8th or 9th month rolls around and we don't have a director, like the county board's going to be ready to shut this down. So,
Okay,
and
thanks very much. Yep.
thank you all.
Thomas Davis?
Thank you.
Yeah. Whoops, excuse
Um, Congratulations, you passed the recall letter. It's just a letter. Um, that was, I guess, something that I've commented on every time. So congratulations. Let me just remind you that as a template, back in late December, I did transmit a draft letter that had some blanks in it so that the commission could review it, put in necessary information. I view that draft letter simply as a template. The Attorney General requires a substantial elaboration on factual background and why this is a public interest. So congratulations on that. Now, let's turn to the restrictions on speech. This is a citizens commission, and it's human nature to respond to criticism and anger. This is a more measured response. It's good to put things in writing. However, meaningful engagement will not be encouraged by a 40% reduction in the time allotted to an individual for public comment. You've been giving people 5 minutes throughout all these meetings till tonight, and 3 minutes is a 40% decrease. The good thing is the audience questions. That's another thing that's important to a democratic dialogue. So this is good. It's a movement toward transparency by, like I say, putting your rules and policies in writing. As far as decorum, I don't think that that will be a problem. It is a problem in Congress, but we don't behave like that. We are decent people. And of course, people are frustrated and angry. Uh, That's why we're here. So, lastly, there is a trend with the Trump regime to repress speech. We now have sanctions being imposed on so-called illegal protests. There is nothing illegal about exercising your freedom of speech. There's nothing illegal about that. And if people raise their voice, and at one of these commissions meetings, a gentleman, basically said, "F the police." Well, that's that's a message from the community. And it may be profane, it may be offensive to some people. I wouldn't say that uh, with the cameras rolling, but I can understand the anger and frustration. And I'm sorry, I've got balance issues. But you all signed on to this knowing that it was, a Sisyphus pushing a rock, a boulder up a hill. You're never done. No victory stays won. And I encourage you folks to somehow, even if you have to divorce yourself from the county and relinquish their funding, to continue these efforts. If it has to be an NGO or a nonprofit, or even just this group meeting as it should every month. So keep it up. You're making some progress. I know that people are a little bit disappointed. I wrote an article for this week's Illinois Times on the Massey Commission, and I really did not criticize at all. I really tried to be encouraging. Okay, and getting back once again to the recall, good job.
Kathy Bodum. I just had a brief comments. I have been so interested in this process all along. I've been trying to attend all meetings. It is frustrating when the meetings of the minutes are not posted, when I know that the commissioners are receiving what sounds like very interesting information that I have no access to. And that takes a lot of work. So I can understand why Rakisha and Megan couldn't do it. But when you're hiring a new commissioner, or excuse me, a new administrator, if you could try to be more transparent with all of the information, that would be wonderful. And I'm so glad that everybody is encouraged about what you're doing and wants to continue, because I think what you're doing is important and valuable.
Okay. Well, that completes our night. Thank you so much for joining us. I do need a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion? What? And second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay. Thank you very much.